Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bubble Talk. It's another wonderful week, and I hope you guys had a wonderful last week. So today we're going to start with some interesting bubble tea today. This is charcoal. I don't think it's the real charcoal because I know that people used to die from this kind of stuff. But this is charcoal pearl organic. I sound Chinese now. Okay, charcoal pearl organic oolong, and this is actually really, really good. I had to taste some before it. Okay, so everyone grab your bubble teas, your coffees, or whatever drinks that you have, and we're going to begin today's Bubble Talk on planning for your future. Do you know your future, what you're planning for, all right? So let's begin today's Bubble Talk. Now, the first thing we have to talk about is the future, because when we say planning for the future, you need to know what the future is, and the answer is you don't know, right? The future is absolutely unknown. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't actually know what's going to happen like tonight when you go home. Oh, actually, you guys are all probably home right now. But you really don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when your mom's going to come in. You don't know when, someone might call you or text you. There's a lot of things that are very uncertain about the future. So a lot of times because people are uncertain about what the future holds, we look to kind of just live day to day, paycheck to paycheck, week by week. And this is because we really don't know what's going to happen. So what most people do is we kind of just live our lives reacting to what happens and like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. So this happens and then I react to it and I live this way. We kind of just follow, right? Life happens and you just kind of follow whatever is there. And most people, how far do we look ahead? And let's be honest with ourselves. Are any of us really looking like 3 months ahead? Like, honestly, are you really thinking to yourself, like, in 3 months, in 90 days, this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to have this accomplished in 90 days, in 6 months, in 1 year. Most people are what? Either tomorrow, which is 1 day, or by this week, right? And when you live by week, you're just like, oh, I just hope I get to the end of the week. And you're going to get there. Or some people who are really big thinking might kind of plan for the month. It's very rare to find someone who's even 6 months ahead of time, like thinking 6 months ahead. So we have to become people, if you want to be someone who can think, like plan for your future, you have to realize you have to think much further in advance. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to go over today's topic about planning for your future, but because we don't plan for our future, let me tell you something that's like a sign of all people who don't look very far ahead, is there is no excitement to get up today. You know what I mean? Like there's no, you don't get up like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And then you start going out and start doing lots of different things. Because you don't have you're not looking very far ahead, there's no excitement to get up. And that's why it's okay to hit the snooze. And that's why it's okay kind of to do nothing. Right? And that's kind of one of the signs you could tell if you're looking, how far in the future are you actually looking? And if you don't have excitement in your life, you know what that means? The intensity of your life becomes very low, like low energy, low intensity. You're tired all the time, and you have no willpower to do anything. So today, we're going to talk about, are you ready for your future? Are you ready to plan for your future? And one thing I'm going to tell you is, do not think that a job and how much you make is planning for the future. That is not. Okay, I just want to tell you that, right? One thing, as for myself, I'm a person of faith, and I look to the scriptures for wisdom. There's a scripture in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 22 and 23. And this is like King Solomon, who has everything. And you know what he says? He says, "What do people get for all the toil and anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? All their days, their work is grief and pain. Even at night, their minds do not rest. This is meaningless," right? If you think about it, if your only thing you're thinking about is money and money and your job or your career, you're only thinking about pain and toil, because that's what work is, right? So that's why we want to go into today's topic of planning for your future. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to tell everyone right now is, just like I said before, is you got to start thinking bigger. You're thinking way too small, way too short. You got to think long-term, think big, okay? Your thoughts become too short-sighted, so the things that you want are very small. Like what? What are the things you want to upgrade in life? And you think about really small things like, I need a new shirt. Ooh, I want to try the next bubble tea. Oh, I want a new car. I want to go into another house to rent, a better house. I want a better job that pays me more. I want to make more money. These are all short-term things. They're very, very short, right? So we have to think to ourselves, you can't think too tiny, you can't think too small. Why? Because if what you want, what the thing that you're thinking about is too short and too small, then your drive and your excitement becomes that small. You know, you gotta think about this. What's something that's exciting? An exciting thing, a very big thing is, like people who spend like 7, 8 years trying to become a doctor, and when you finally become a doctor, it's a big thing, right? So it's a very anticipated, like, whoa, I'm gonna be a doctor, I'm gonna become a doctor. But if it's something like, I can't wait for dinner tonight. What are you guys having? We're having instant noodles. You know what? You're not gonna be that excited. Right? The smaller it is, the less design, the less excitement there is. So what does this mean? Right? What does this mean? It means that the very first thing that matters to us is the biggest thing. What is it? It is vision. Okay? The first thing, in order for you to plan what you want in your life, this is something that's very interesting because you got like 90-something percent of the people in the world don't have vision. What does that mean? They're basically living and just following what happens in life. Right? Paycheck to paycheck, day by day. There's nothing big or great they're thinking about in life. What am I talking about? A vision. A vision is about your future. It is very clear. It inspires you. Okay? You know what the word inspiration, it should inspire you when you think of your vision. It should compel you. It should be something that excites you, and it should give you energy that you want to do it every single day. Right? It's not a goal. We're talking huge. We're talking vision. Let's take a look at Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. It's a very interesting verse. It says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. One of the greatest things we have is hope, because hope is exciting. Hope is something in the future. Hope is something that you look at and say, I can't wait to get that, and it drives you to become better. This is something you have to understand is this vision that is very clear and compelling and inspires you, it has to be something that is so hopeful to you. It's got to be hopeful. A vision should inspire you every time you read it. If you write it down and you read this vision, that's your vision, you should read it and say, oh my goodness, okay, I got to get up. I got to do this. I got to do this. It drives you. It compels you. It energizes you. That's what vision does. You have to create a great vision of the future, envisioning yourself in the future. What do you really want with life? What do you really, really want? We're not just talking about, I want like a second car. Well, I don't get a second car. Why? Because you could buy like this old beater. Right? Get it for like 5,000 ringgit. A hunk of junk, and you got 2 cars. Really? Is that a vision? No. Got to think much bigger. It's something that you truly want so badly that thinking about it inspires you. That's what vision is. Let me give you an example of what a vision is not. You know, at the very beginning of the year, what do people do? Every New Year's, what do? We do New Year's resolutions. We're like, And you know what most of the resolutions are? It's like this. I want to stop smoking. I want to stop drinking. I want to stop eating. I want to stop. And everything's about losing weight. Everything is about, it's usually about stopping something. That is not a vision. Stopping something, I'm going to tell you why. Motivations in life, there's 2 types. There's what you call a motivation you have to push, and there's a motivation that pulls you, right? So trying to stop something is a motivation that's pushing you, which means it depends on your willpower. But the problem is your willpower doesn't last very long. And this is why you have a New Year's resolution of stop smoking, and it doesn't last very long. The more powerful motivation is something that pulls you, right? It drives and excites you. It's something you want. And that thing you want makes you stop doing things. That's how crazy the difference between that type of motivation is. Let me give you a person who's a perfect example, okay? Everyone here, I'm sure most of you have never seen this guy fight. He's a boxer, very famous. They consider him one of the greatest ever. His name is Muhammad Ali, okay? One of the greatest ever, okay? And he was doing an interview, and I was watching this interview on TV, okay? Well, it's on YouTube now. And they asked him about boxing. And he says, what's boxing? Boxing's nothing to me. Like boxing, what is boxing? It's only a step. That's all it is. So he says, boxing just introduced me to the world. But what's his vision? He says, freedom and equality for African Americans in America. And he says, after I stop boxing, I'm going to be working with children. I'm going to be working with children in the African American community. I'm going to be educating them, and I'm going to help them to gain their freedom and equality. And that time, of course, there was tons of racism back then too, right? And if you think about this, boxing is a job. But for him, that wasn't his vision. His vision was much bigger than that. His vision was equality and freedom for his people. You got to think how crazy that is. That's huge. It drove him, right? The boxing wasn't it. The vision was bigger. It was freedom and equality for his people. And this is what vision is. And you got to think about this. Vision is not something that's right around the corner. Vision takes time. And you have to realize how important vision is. And like I said, even though you might not know what it is right now, but when you find the vision, it compels, inspires, excites, energizes, and it just makes you want to get up and do what you've always wanted to do. Number one is what? If you want to plan for your future, the first thing to think about is your vision. What do you really, really, really want? Now, the second one is kind of like not 1, 2. It's kind of the same. They're the same level. And the second thing I want to talk to you about today is purpose. Okay? Now, vision is like that big thing, what you want to be, what's in your heart and your mind inspires you and makes you want to do it, right? The second thing is purpose, or they're like 1A, 1B. Purpose is understanding why you want that vision. Like, why do you want it? Why is it so important to you? Understanding the why is such an important thing for everyone to understand. Is you can't just say, I want to be a billionaire. You can't just say, I want to be people that helps other people. There's got to be a why behind it. Well, why do you want that? Why do you have that vision? What's the reason behind it? Do you understand why you want it? What is the great reason that makes you want to do that? You like, when someone says why, and you're like, because of this. This is why I have such a great vision. And very interestingly, some people, when you think about the reason why, a lot of people are thinking more of, like, faith. Like people, like even with Muhammad Ali, it's more of, I believe in God, and he was Muslim, right? And he says, because this is God's purpose for me. That's the why. Can you imagine that? That's the same as, like, imagine God coming down and telling you, like, hey, I want you to be a boxer and become heavyweight champion so you can fulfill the vision of bringing freedom and equality to people. And that's God's command. And you'd be like, whoa, and there's a reason why. For Muhammad Ali, he had a vision, but there's a great why behind it. It's the reason why he was created. It's the thing that he wants to fulfill in his life. It's the reason he exists. It's the reason he was created to do this in his life. That is the why. It's huge, and it's something that you have to do. That's the fulfillment of your life. Take a look at Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5. Very interesting. You know what it says? It says, the purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but the one who has insight draws them out. This is a very deep and wise saying. You need to figure this out, but it's not something so simple as going to shallow waters and taking a little string and trying to, fishing with a little piece of string. It says what? The person's heart is deep waters. This is why it's so hard to find. This is why we're all struggling with it, because it's deep waters, and you have to understand it's deep so you can search for it with everything that you have. Why? What are you searching for? The why. Why do I live? Why am I here? Why am I created? What is my purpose? Why am I existing right now on this earth? Like, I'm going to ask that question to you guys right now is, what is the why? The why you do all the things you do. But in most cases, people don't know the why. They don't have a vision. So whatever happens in life, you kind of just follow it. And you have no reason to. You're just kind of going with the flow. Muhammad Ali, purpose, his why came from his faith, his religion. And his vision was fulfilling that purpose. The why was there, and this is why he's doing all the great things he did. Vision and purpose. Basically, for Muhammad Ali, he's like fulfilling God's will. That is a crazy, amazing, powerful why. That moves us to the third thing. If you have a vision and purpose, now that you have what you want, what you really, you have the why, now you know what you really, really want. Like Muhammad Ali wanted freedom and equality for African Americans in America at the time when there's huge racism, right? Which leads us to now, this is a thing that people usually have, which is kind of not sad, but it's everything's out of order, is goals. Goals. Goals is what you need to do to fulfill your vision, which is like jobs, how much money you make, your relationships, your school, your major, right? All these other smaller things, these are goals. Goals are stepping stones along the way that lead to something bigger, right? That's what a goal is. So once you have your vision and your purpose, then you can break them down into certain goals that you want to achieve, right? This is why a lot of, like we were talking about this before, is most people are thinking jobs and money first. But that's a goal. But then what's the goal towards? Like, why do you want that job? To make that much money? To do what? What's the vision? What's the great thing you want to do? And it doesn't have to be great as in save the world, right? Because some people can have that great vision of what? Being the greatest father possible to these children, or to the family man, to your wife. It could be this. But if you don't even have that, why are you what's the point of the job? What's the vision? Why do you want that job? Why do you want to be rich? And this is why a lot of people lose sight. I was listening to a psychologist, famous psychologist named Jordan Peterson. He's Canadian, and I really like him because he's Canadian, right? But he says that, most people, you have two choices in life. Number one is you can become exceptional in one thing, like do it 150%, like something so amazing, you're top of the group. At the highest of the highest of the highest, okay? But you'll only be able to do that, and you'll sacrifice everything else. You'll sacrifice your family. Why? Because you're doing 70, 80-hour weeks, but you'll become top of your profession or whatever it is. Or you can have 4 or 5 things and be 80% at that. You'll never be exceptional, but the more fulfilling and the more meaningful life is the one when you have 4 or 5 things at 80%. And when you don't have a vision, what happens is you're not leading towards something greater. All you think about is money and your job, your career, and you put everything into it, and then in the end you get divorced, your children don't like you, and you're basically left alone. So what's the reason, right? What was the reason for it? There's got to be a reason why you got to work, or you want to make that much money. So how does that work? So let's take a look at Muhammad Ali again. He's a big example. His vision was freedom and equality for all African Americans, okay? The why, the purpose was what? Because it's his God-given gift. It's God's mission for him in this life. So what is one of his goals? Let's just take a look at one of his goals. Become heavyweight champion of the world. That goal will lead to freedom and equality of African Americans. Becoming heavyweight champion gave him notoriety, made him famous, and people would listen to him. And he said, if I wasn't heavyweight champion, I can say the most racist or brutal things and no one cares. But now that he's famous, I'll just say something so small that's controversial and everyone talks about it in the newspaper. That was his first goal, heavyweight champion of the world. And that would lead towards his vision, his purpose. So what does that mean? So let me give you an example. That's his goals, okay? And this is going to lead to the final part. Because now that you have your goals, it's going to lead to the final section. The fourth thing I want you to think about today is, if you have a goal now, like for instance, Muhammad Ali's goal is heavyweight champion, then what you need to do is build habits that fulfill that goal. We're going to the smallest point now, habits. Habits, in order for us to be successful in anything, all your successful things require you to have healthy habits, right? Let me give you an example. For Muhammad Ali, just one example. One of his habits he had was waking up at 5:30 a.m. That's what it took. 5:30 a.m., he woke up and he ran 10 kilometers. Just kept running 10 kilometers, 5:30 a.m. So he built the habit of waking up early, right? Waking up early and running. Waking up early and training. Why? Because you can't be heavyweight champion without training. But the first habit he had was waking up and running right away. He went to go run 10 kilometers. So if you think about it, what's he doing? He's building habits that allows him to fulfill his goals. And once he fulfills that goals, it brings him closer to his vision and his purpose. You see, Luke chapter 14, verse 28. What's it saying? It says that, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? It means that as you're starting to build your vision, your purpose, and then you have your goals and then habits, getting to the habit level is, now that I have my vision and my purpose, I have to count the cost. So if I want to become that person, if I want to become someone who brings freedom and equality, no one's going to listen to me, so he has to count the cost of what I have to do next. I got to become famous. I got to become someone who everyone looks up to. So when he thinks about this, he's like, okay, if I'm going to become someone that everyone looks up to, then what happens next? What am I good at? What are my interests? Well, I can beat people up. I'm going to be a boxer. And if I become a famous boxer, heavyweight champion of the world, everyone's going to listen to me, and then I'll be able to do and fulfill my vision and my purpose. And then once again, what's he doing counting his cost? He counts his cost by looking at that goal and saying, okay, if I want to become heavyweight champion of the world, what kind of habits do I need to make? What kind of habits do I need to build? 5:30 a.m., 10 kilometers every day, habit over habit, the stepping stone habits that lead to my goals, that lead to my visions and my purpose. Many good habits lead to fulfilling your goals. In the end, it's all a matter of, can you break down your goals into habits? And if you do those habits, it will lead to your success of fulfilling that goal. Let me wrap things up right now. I'm going to wrap it up with the verse. It says, Philippians chapter 3, verse 13, 14. It says, brothers and sisters, talking to you guys, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it, but one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead, I press on towards the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenwards in Christ Jesus, right? Towards the goal. We got to press on towards it. What does that mean? Right now, remember, the vision is big. Purpose is beyond life. It's huge. What does that mean? It means that you can't create a vision and a goal or purpose like in an hour. You have to create it. And it takes time. It does. It really takes time. And if you understand this, you will take your time out to figure out how to, and to create a great vision and a great goal. Don't sit there and try to do it over a week. Well, maybe a week is good, right? Over a day, an hour, 10 minutes. It's not going to work that way. You have to think much deeper. Remember that verse? It said, the person's heart, what is it? It's deep waters. And you have to have the insight to pull it out. These purposes in your heart. There it is, Proverbs 20, verse 5. But one who has insight draws them out. So I hope that all of you will really look at this topic once again. Think about the things, what you really want for yourself. What is the reason behind it? What's the why? Then make goals to lead towards your vision, and then make habits to fulfill your goals. Hey guys, thanks for watching. This is Sky. Make sure you click subscribe, obliterate that like button, leave some comments, and support us on Patreon. All right, catch you later.